My friends tell me, Pedro, I really enjoyed your latest video, but why don't you for once review a movie that was actually seen by people and released less than 50 years ago? Why don't you go with something modern? And my answer to them is always the same. I don't review modern day movies because most of modern day releases are shit. But we're all slaves to the algorithm and views, and we all want to get monetized. So, for the sake of it, I've decided to conclude the year with a review of my personal highlights of 2023. The moments, the movies, everything that I believed that made 2023 great. And now for something completely different. I'm actually gonna talk about things that happened this year. Hoo-ah! 2023 had, in my opinion, two of the most significant and important releases of all time. Those titles were The Marvels and The Blue Beetle. I'm talking about these movies not because I thought they were good, hell, I didn't even see them. I'm talking about them because I think they were very important, since they actually forced Disney and Warner Brothers to admit cape shit fatigue is real.
Oh my God!
2023 marked the first time that audiences that just 3 years ago were super excited about the latest superhero crap realized that they were about to watch the same movie for the fourth time in a year. So they did the unthinkable, didn't buy a ticket. A gesture that simply said,
"We've spent 20 years eating your shit and saying, delicious, what a cook, no more."
Simply put, after seeing the performances of these movies, we now understand what Martin Scorsese meant when he talked about theme park movies. Just like a roller coaster that rose high to the tune of The Dark Knight and Avengers: The Dawn of Justice League, the ride has now entered its descending phase and just crashed into the horror house called box office reality. For years we had to deal with this man-made aberration, compared only to other man-made horrors like Paddle, Reggaeton and the TV show Friends, as a necessary evil, for the profits that these movies generated were the ones that were subsidizing good movies. Not anymore. And for the first time in 15 years, DC and Marvel have the fewest number of ongoing movie productions, meaning that they're no longer spending $300 million per movie to retell the same old crappy story.
Talk about pissing your money away. Oh, I hope you kids see what a silly waste of resources this was.
In fact, in 2024 we will have a single superhero movie release. Things are so bad that Warner has cancelled the whole DC universe, a franchise that managed to survive the mere existence of Ezra Miller. Rumor has it that the reason Warner hasn't been able to sell off Coyote vs. Acme is because they tried to bundle it up with Batgirl. And nobody wants that. Not even for free.
You don't mind, do you, Brennan? You don't. Okay.
Brennan.
But sure, there are still deniers. Superhero fans that are more deluded than a recipient of a birthday card that reads 30, flirty and thriving. They're not. You know the type, the masochists who believe they need to see more of what Zack Snyder directed.
Hit me again, Ike, and put some stank on it!
Of course I welcome this event with mixed feelings.
Like Larry Wildman going off a cliff in my new Maserati.
On one hand, I hate modern superhero movies. On the other, I own Disney shares. And I rely on these more aficionados to keep buying tickets and merchandise and Funko Pops. But that's life. You take the good, you take the bad, and hopefully 2023 marks the beginning of the end of a genre that really has outstayed its welcome. But if you are a superhero movie fan and you're sad about missing the extensive CGI sequences featuring a blue ray coming down from the skies, worry not, I got you covered. But it's too early to cry victory. Too early for celebrations. Because when an evil dies, well, the worst one takes over. And the new threat comes in the shape of the formulaic biopic, which is just another variation of the superhero movies, but with real people. Now, unlike cape shit, the biopic is more like the flu, a seasonal malaise that manifests itself during awards season. During this period, we are treated to iconic moments such as Ana de Armas pretending to be a moron,
this to eat? I mean, standing up?
Bradley Cooper playing the role of an actor who really wants an Oscar, and I guess whatever the hell that was. But this trend may go away very soon, as Warner Brothers has announced an Edith Piaf biopic that will use AI to recreate the iconic singer's voice and image. While this is the first time official plans are in place for an AI-driven biopic, it's not actually the first time the idea has been toyed with in Hollywood. See, in 2023 during the WGA SAG-AFTRA strikes, Netflix actually toyed with the idea of developing an AI-driven biopic using their two most powerful weapons: ChatGPT and millennials who only know what they see on Netflix. The target of that biopic? Michael Jackson, in The Michael Jackson Story. When asked by reporters if Netflix was concerned about the flaws around the quality and veracity of the information presented by ChatGPT, Netflix replied, "We didn't care before, why should we start now?" So by ignoring fact-checking, the Michael Jackson biopic would have featured the following moments: the time when Jackson 5 performed for Premier Brezhnev in the Soviet Union. Also the time when Michael Jackson thought he was a statue at Madame Tussauds in London. And finally, the iconic legal battle between Burt Reynolds and Michael Jackson when the former sued the latter, accusing him of stealing his pose for the cover of the iconic 1982 album Thriller. ChatGPT would have also helped the millennials with the casting. The AI tool had already indicated actors for the roles of LaToya and Jermaine. No news on who would have played the role of Tito. And it's a good thing AI will probably kill all these biopics because these things are getting out of hand. Last year we had Elvis, this year we have Priscilla. I mean, where will they stop? Studios are not happy with just having a source material or a single person. They need to go after the whole goddamn family. And if you don't believe this is getting out of hand, well, check out some of the projects some studios have shortlisted. Movies featuring the following people: George Bush's old drinking buddy Moose, David Lee Roth's hairdresser, and Matthew Broderick's driving instructor. I'll let you Google that one. My personal suggestions? Well, Andrew Garfield as forgotten 1980s rock icon Rex Smith, and Pete Davidson as the Crypt Keeper. No prosthetics nor makeup needed, just the real deal.
You got a gift, my friend.
Of course, another of the year's highlights was the sequel nobody asked for, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, I really don't know what to make of this fifth entry. I believe that the franchise started to suffer from that rare condition that circles around Hollywood known as the Die Hard syndrome, where after a successful iconic trilogy, the franchise spurts out a fourth entry that disappoints the fans, but somehow it's commercially successful, and tries to make it up to the large fan base by putting out a fifth movie that makes matters even worse. Now, I have to admit, I actually believed we could have gotten a good Indiana Jones movie, one that will be in line with the classics of the 1980s that we love and enjoy. And much like Indiana Jones, I ventured into the theater only to be crushed by a gigantic boulder of shit, known as Indiana Jones 5. You know, I could spend a lot of hours criticizing the movie's plot, the poor quality and excessive amounts of CGI, and even joking at the expense of that dream crusher known as Kathleen Kennedy. But I'd rather focus on the main reason I believe this movie failed: Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Now, I know Helena Shaw's character may have been poorly written, but the way she brings that character to life is the most annoying thing that ever happened to the franchise. That's saying something about a franchise that included Shia LaBeouf. She's so bad, you almost can't believe that her character wasn't written by George Lucas.
No, Mr. Stay. Mr. called Jar Jar Binks. Mr. your humble servant.
But it is not the first time this discounted Keira Knightley has ruined the franchise for me. See, 2 years ago, Waller-Bridge was also responsible for ruining James Bond after she was hired to work on character development and add humor to the script of No Time to Die. Spoiler alert, she failed on both fronts. Yep, Phoebe Waller-Bridge seems to be the go-to person when you need to terminate a franchise. Rumor has it that in 2024 she will partner with the director who's also responsible for crushing franchises, namely Halloween and The Exorcist, David Gordon Green, and the two of them will bring to life the newest Friday the 13th movie. Waller-Bridge will play the role of Jason Voorhees, and for the first time ever in a slasher, nobody will die. Of course, I can't talk about 2023 without covering the biggest phenomenon of the year, the $2.5 billion meme/joke, Barbenheimer. Personally, I loved Oppenheimer, not only because it's a great movie, but because it actually made it possible for me to quote the great Dennis Miller without having to give context.
Hair and makeup tips so intricate they would confound Oppenheimer.
As for Barbie, I thought it was okay. But the movie proved to be divisive. The left love it because of its feminist agenda and how it delivered a message to a new audience. Yeah, Barbie's as efficient in promoting feminism as Carrie was in stopping bullying when it was released in 1976. On the other hand, the right hated the movie because it promotes toxic behavior and the hatred of men. I don't know. When the movie's highlight is Ryan Gosling's Ken and all the best scenes have been appropriated by the right to create top-notch memes, I don't think you really have a case. All in all, I think Barbie only served to show us that there are morons across all the little nooks and crannies of the political spectrum. But I think it actually achieved something far more important. After 7 years in development hell and multiple iterations, the 1.4 billion hit proved once and for all a theory that has haunted Hollywood for over a century. The movie showed that moviegoers would rather pay to see attractive people than to see Amy Schumer. And now to my favorite genre. Horror had a good year in 2023, not as good as 2022, but still, there were some surprises. And the first one was Saw 10, the 10th entry in the iconic franchise. The movie shocked horror fans by providing them with something they'd never seen before in a Saw movie, an actual plot. The movie was also praised by critics and fans alike for its performances and innovative traps like this one. This particular trap finds the victim with 2 suction vacuums attached to its eyes and then forced to watch all 8 episodes of Netflix's The Fall of the House of Usher in one go. Talk about torture. Eli Roth finally adapted Thanksgiving, and nobody cared. And A24 has finally perfected their horror formula by pulling an M. Night Shyamalan twist. Pretend that their movies are colossal hits that audiences have actually seen. Of course, the biggest surprise of 2023 was Taylor Swift and her movie, The Eras Tour. The movie generated $250 million globally, and brought Taylor Swift, her music, and the behavior of her fans to the attention of authorities. A group of esteemed psychiatrists and authorities around the world deemed Taylor Swift to be the head of a cult, and her followers, Swifties, to be deranged. You can see here footage from the screenings of her movie in London. Paris. New York. So if you are the ex-boyfriend of a Swiftie, you may be entitled to some financial compensation. If you don't know what a Swiftie looks like, here are some signs that you could be in the presence of a member of that cult. Friendship bracelets made out of cheap plastic. Live, laugh, love memorabilia. Positive affirmation quotes on social media. And a demeanor that's as condescending and dramatic as Prince performing Purple Rain. And that's it. Here's to a less mediocre 2024, but I know it's just wishful thinking.